All right, everyone, welcome to Sunday Night Sessions. I'm Tracy Jameson along with Val Smith. We've got a treat for you tonight. We've got a couple of great fellows on here. As usual, we are thought-provoking, we're entertaining, and warning, we are not always politically correct, but we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. On with us tonight, of course, Thom Kaz was on with us last week.
Yeah.
Just a really great time with him. And tonight we've also got Gino Nicoli. And I'm going to just send it over to Val. You know what, Val, just open up the conversation, because we never know what direction it's going to go.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm pretty excited about what we're going to talk about tonight. If we're going to talk about anything at all, I imagine there's going to be a lot of talk tonight because Tom's on here, Gino's on here, and we got two talkers. It's great. And then there's Tracy and I, who are pretty quiet. So, you know, well, we got four, but I wanted to put the focus on them tonight anyhow.
Absolutely.
But anyhow, what I wanted to say tonight was... What I wanted to talk about tonight was communication. I think communication is really important in all which way, shapes, and forms. And I really wanted Gino to be on here tonight because he's a communicator. Tom's like a way out there communicator. He's got the stage. We've never had the stage like Tom's had it. So, and then Tracy and I, we have our own style of communication using the Hangouts, using the internet, using video online. And I wanted to talk about communication tonight just because everyone's got their own means of communication. And in the online marketing world, communication comes in all shapes and forms, from autoresponders to non-autoresponders to secret service business builders out there that don't even communicate, period, in the MLM industry. They like to hide behind whatever. And then we have video, and then we have conference calls. Gino, you do conference calls, and we know all about the conference call industry. But what we're going to do is we're going to pass it over to Tom right now. First of all, Gino, it's great to have you here tonight, but I wanted to bring Tom in right away. Tom, let's talk about your forms of communication. Not only have you been, you know, we talked about it last week. I mean, I don't even want to get into your encyclopedia of everything you've done. It's just too much. The list is like, we'll be here for 3 days going through the list. Tom's done it all, let's put it this way. But he's had the great honor and privilege of working on the stage in Vegas. He's also been in network marketing, the home-based business community. And Tom, why don't you talk about, no companies per se, but talk about your primary skill set, gift, and talent when it comes to communication. What is the way that you communicate to people? Where do they see you? Where does it come from? What does the environment look like most of the time when you're out there communicating? We'll talk about all the different variables. Go ahead, Tom.
Sure. Yeah, well, it's great to be on with you guys again. No, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, we're in the persuasion business, right? And so, you know, what I've spent the last 30 years or 15 years since I turned 15 doing, is learning how to communicate more effectively, both on stage and off stage, as well as online and offline. So as a part of what we're developing here, we're teaching people and we're opening people up to the possibility that, you know, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your communication. And that's whether it's with your spouse, your kids, your business partners, your customers, your prospects. And so we're teaching people things that, you know, are not taught in schools, are not taught in colleges, they're not even taught in corporations, things that help them with communicating not just with the words that they say, but how they say them, the way that they say them. You know, hypnotic communication is the ultimate form of persuasion. And as you guys know, and as the folks that have watched the show before have seen, hundreds of people will you know, pay to come see me perform, but even more will pay to be trained by myself. And it's because I'm teaching them how to use their words, how to use their body language, how to use their vocal inflection and things to be more effective as communicators. And in this industry, whether it's online or offline, how you communicate, how you ask questions, and how you answer those questions is going to determine your ability to build the rapport and the relationship with your prospects or your customers. So it's imperative that that people learn these skill sets, and I'm sure you guys could echo those sentiments.
What does that environment look like, Tom? You're not your stereotypical guy that's on a computer 15 hours a day, hiding behind a Facebook page, or you're not communicating through text messaging and chat and building a business, building an empire, teaching, training, or even performing. What does your environment look like? What does the external look like outside of you? What will you see when you're communicating? Are you live in person, or are you behind an apron?
Most of the time, they bring me in to talk live. You know, of course, over the internet and in video chat, television, radio, I'm doing a lot of that these days. But more often than not, corporations and when they're looking at developing training programs, are when I'm building my organization. It's 90% of it is me working with people one-on-one, and the reason for that is that it's hard to really get what I do unless you've seen it. And one of the things I've learned how to do over the years is to be able to convey that, as you know, through the Mental Edge Golf program and the other training programs, is to take a very complex, very scientific subject and break it down into digestible components so that anyone can use the same skills. I was taught how to do this. I can teach others how to do this. And so the environment for me primarily stems from appearing at large events. I've performed from as many as 50 to 5,000 on stage. But I've done a lot of events with network marketing companies, annual events with 30, 40,000 people. So for me, it's primarily live, but now I'm beginning to embrace the power of technology, the power of virtual training, and the power of Google Hangouts and other technologies that are available now.
That's awesome. Gino, how do we do it, brother? We have something in common. We've trained telemarketing firms. We've been in there face-to-face, belly-to-belly in the rooms. You've managed rooms. You've trained thousands of people out there. You're building a business right now with your beautiful wife, Brandy. What does your environment look like, and what are your focal points?
I like to do live in-person training, but as far as building the business, we enjoy having a home-based business and teaching people how to have a home-based business. Using technology, the internet, to drive prospects, and then I still like conference calls. I think that they're so easily accessible by everybody still, and even though the internet is advancing and growing, people aren't necessarily advancing and growing at the same pace. So, I just like conference. I think it's just a really easy, simple medium for people to get to. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. Tom, did you want to say something about that?
No, I just agree. I think in this day and age, things are so much different. We talked about this last week. Things are so much different in this industry. I remember, buying 4 VCR recorders and making tapes and running around and dropping them off. And hey, I need this back in 2 days. And right. And nowadays, it's like, hey, can I get you to agree that if I come back in 2 days, you'll give me back my tape, but you're going to watch it? Yeah, of course. And then you go back and they don't watch it, and they don't give you the tape back either because they recorded Married with Children over it. So it's like, those kind of things happen. It's like, Peg, but no, the industry's changed and it's gotten easier. It's not hard. It's not easy, but it is simple if you just follow proven processes. And now, had I been able to sit in front of a microphone and a computer 25 years ago and just talk to people and share ideas with people, it exponentially would have grown the business. And I think nowadays that people can embrace this technology and use it to their advantage.
You said something really interesting. You said it's easier. And I agree with you. I think it is easier because of the way technology is. But for some reason, people are finding it more difficult now. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a big disconnect in that where people, because of the cell phone and the texting kind of thing, that mm-hmm. that disconnect, they can't get that whole process of actually making that personal connection anymore. So it's simpler, but people are making it much more difficult for some reason. Why do you think? I
think they're afraid to fail. I think that people are afraid to embrace technology for what it is, and it takes a lot of work to take a person who's done something a certain way for 30 or 40 years. You take an old salesman off the road and tell him, hey, I want you doing video presentations and PowerPoint presentations. He's not going to be comfortable, so he's not going to feel natural, so he's not going to gain that rapport, and he's not going to get that business, right? So you can teach an old dog new tricks, but you can teach an old dog a better way of doing the old tricks. And so we have to make it easy for people to understand that. And, it's a process. It's a process of evolution. You guys remember when cell phones first came out, you had to get it drilled into your car, hook it to the battery. It was an 8-hour-long installation. Now you go down the street, you can buy one. You can buy an ice cream cone and like, I would like to buy a cell phone. I could use. Here you go, sir. It's already programmed with your phone numbers. Then it just buy your ice cream and it's free. It's like whatever, right? So it's changed the whole game. So no, it's exciting to be part of the change and to see it all happen. But damn, I wish it would have been here 30 years ago.
You've got to remember how new this technology is, too. It was 2006 for the iPhone to break. Yeah. Before that, we all suffered with BlackBerries, and we thought we were, really advanced. So a lot of times.
Pagers.
Right. We were doing. That's why even for our students and stuff that we have all over the country and everything, it's still hard for them to get on Zoom. Even when I was trying to get in here this afternoon, it's still new. It's breaking technology, even though it's been around for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, that's a good point. Talking about pagers, I still carry a pager. I don't have a cell phone. Every time I walk around in the mall, the pager, they say, hey, bro, come on over here, man. What you got in your pocket for me, man?
Right.
What you got in your pocket for me, bro? Come on over here. So like pagers, we always associated pagers with drug dealers, right? So anytime you saw somebody with a pager going off and looking at it, it's like, uh-oh, Tom's selling something again in
No,
Vegas.
that was just your drug dealer, Val. That was just your dealer. He's like, that damn Val Smith, he won't stop calling me, man. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time. What is he doing to me these days? Come on, man.
Yeah, it's the online drug dealer coming to get you, bro. So, Gino, what about the training you do every week? I mean, Tom brought up a really good point. There's a lot of people that don't want to learn. What are you finding in those training calls that you're doing? Because you do free training every week with copious amounts of people on those calls. And what are you observing? What are you picking up? Why is it you think people don't want to learn, to progress, to move forward, to take the initiative, to get in the game? I like the old saying that if you're not in the parade, you're sitting on the sidelines eating popcorn and cotton candy. So why do people want to sit on the sidelines and eat that cotton candy and the popcorn, and they're afraid to be in the parade, man? What are you doing out there?
That shit is really good.
Well, I think to some degree we're dealing with the same thing we've always dealt with. The majority of people are afraid to communicate. They're afraid to come out of their shell a little bit, and I don't think technology is going to change that. I think that's just human nature. And technology, I hate to say it, but technology is making it easier for people not to communicate. It's easier to hide behind a Facebook screen. It's easier to hide behind, something on LinkedIn. It's easier to hide behind a data capture page. It's easier not to communicate today than it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you had to come out of the house. Today, you don't have to. So, we have a lot of students that they do want to learn, and they are trying to progress, but at the same time, it's human nature to pull back. It's human nature to recede. It's not human nature to advance. That's the fringe, but that's what makes people at the top are at the top for a reason. So.
Well, and to your point, you just made a very good point, Gino, and that is something we've been talking about, and something we're going to be putting in this new program is fear, right? And so, with hypnosis and with what I do, one of the things we're addressing in this program is helping people overcome fear, because that lives in the subconscious mind. And so with hypnotic, principles and helping people overcome negative belief systems, we're going to install new thoughts and new patterns that literally rewire the brain so that fear becomes something they can use for their business versus not using it at all. And so we're going to take this. That's where we're going with this whole new concept that Val, myself, and Tracy have been working on. Is we're going to give people the ability to say, I have a fear speaking to people. I have a fear being on camera. Okay, great. Let's address that fear. Let's take that fear. Let's turn that around to work for you rather than against you. And so, when we talked about hypnotic communication, we're talking about all these different things, and what we're trying to do is address the reality of what you just said, and there's a fear out there. There's a reluctance to embrace it because it's easier to hide behind the tree, right? So let's get into there. You can't really successfully build a business unless you're willing to take on change, right? Change is process. So we're working towards making that happen for the students that are a little reluctant, because they need to be able to do it to build their businesses successfully. So I'm super excited about that. Val, how's your take on that? You and Tracy?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Gino is spot on with that. You're absolutely spot on with that. Those are the things that we are going to do and will do with people. One of my biggest observations, Tracy and I often talk about this, is why people are afraid to learn. Never mind being in front of video, never mind being in front of the camera. But I find, just in my observations, and any of you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I find that people gravitate, and it's got to be at a subconscious level, to things that don't work. They gravitate to systems that don't work. They gravitate to people that manipulate them and don't work. And, when you have something that's cutting edge, you've got the game-changing product and service, people find a way to resist learning, and it's not even whether they're on video or whether they have to talk. I like right now on the internet, I'm seeing people being attracted to companies that anyone that had half a brain wouldn't even participate in. I mean, junk websites, junk product, no product in most cases, and all they're doing is promoting the marketing system itself as opposed to the product, as opposed to a purpose, a meaning, a mission. The mission seems to be defeated, but somebody would rather say, well, hey, man, we're going to stick a rotator in here. The rotator is going to generate a lot of leads for you, and it's going to rotate through a whole organization. Gene will get one, Tom will get one, Tracy will get one, Val will get one, Gene will get one, Tom will get. You know, people are buying the system,
right,
and allowing themselves to remain, Tom, in a dysfunctional state.
right.
And so, you know, it's not that they have to engage in anything, but at least to have the knowledge. It's like Gino and I have worked in marketing rooms, right? Gino, we've worked in marketing rooms. We've trained marketing rooms. You can come into a marketing room. You don't have to be on the phone and talk if you don't want to. But you know what? At least come and evaluate and assess. You know, some people just fear the whole concept. One of the things I've always said, Gino, I've always said this before, is I said, you know, the government should mandate that people should be forced into a telemarketing room or have to take some sort of communication course before they're ever allowed to participate in a home-based business. I mean, it should be a criminal offense to be in a home-based business unless you get in the boot camp.
No doubt. No doubt. I was doing Toastmasters at 12 years old, and that's what made me comfortable in front of people and talking with people. And I think that
you were doing Don LaPre's infomercials too. You guys are writing and scripting TV infomercials.
Don LaPre, wow.
Yeah.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. You know, I was making
Don LaPre, just from a small room, you can make $900,000 a year with a small classified ad.
Right?
Something like that, right?
That takes me back to Marshall Silver and Kevin Trudeau.
Yeah.
You can have a mega memory and make $1 million with our system. And you know what? It's interesting. It's interesting because it all goes back to what we said last week when we were talking about hypnosis and all that. Is people move towards pleasure and away from pain. So if being on the phone or receiving rejection makes them uncomfortable, they move away from that, right? But we've got to make the desire to have the new car, the new house, the college education, the nice clothes.
Bigger.
We got to make that bigger in their mind so they move towards what they want instead of away from what they don't want. And that's the secret of psychology is people don't know what they don't know. And it's interesting because growth, you know, everybody wants progress, but nobody wants change. But here's the thing. Growth is change. Like my kid, he's 14 in there. He's getting bigger. He's getting uncomfortable. His legs are, you know, hurting. His arms are hurting. His shoulders are hurting. Yeah. He's getting bigger. He's getting stronger. So growth is change, and change is uncomfortable. Therefore, growth is uncomfortable. So you have to be willing to be uncomfortable in developing new communication styles to embrace what's really working, to give yourself a chance to reach the masses. I mean, this business is about leverage. This business is about working smart, not working hard. And you can go the old-fashioned way, and you can put the VCR tapes or the DVDs in and whatever, but you can get on one of these broadcasts or one of these conference calls or one of these Skypes or webinars and reach literally tens of thousands of people, and then that can be broadcast to millions of people, and you could be making money from that. So people have got to be willing to understand that growth is change is uncomfortable, and growth is uncomfortable. So that's part of, you know, what we're addressing in this program. I'm excited about it.
And you know, the other part that I don't understand of people too is that, and Val, you were just talking about, you know, some of the you know, the online companies or claim they be companies, they got just a really crappy website and there's like nothing works on it, and it defies logic. It just absolutely defies logic how people can believe those lies and not even logically think about that whole scenario. And yet, again, like you said, Tom, you know, being able to embrace that change and actually do something that's logical. That part, I struggle with that in my mind because, of course, I mean, you know, I don't know. I don't know.
People want something easy, right? They want to take the path of least resistance. I mean, if everybody was willing to take the path of challenge, I mean, you know, success is not a smooth road. It's a 4x4 path. I mean, you got to be willing to take the bumps and the grinds and everything else. But, you know, what's happening with technology, I mean, think about this just a few years ago. We were talking about this the other day. Dick Tracy talking into a watch. That was an idea. Batman talking on a phone with a squirrely cord going into the center console. That was an idea in the 60s and 70s. Those things exist today, and there's no wires. I mean, a cell phone that's 3 inches tall is more powerful than the first IBM computer was. It cost almost $10 million to make. So it's incredible how things are evolving and changing and downsizing in terms of ways you can use this technology and how small it is and how efficient it is. But I'll tell you, you know, what's coming is going to be so incredible, and the ability for people to learn from people like you, Val, and you, Gino, and the systems that we're putting together for communication and hypnosis training are going to be so interesting to people that they're going to have to look at it, and they can't turn away from it because it's real. This is where things are going, guys. You either watch it and let someone else do it and let them beat you, or you take it, embrace it, make it your own, and beat them. It's really down to competition and who's going to be the best and the fastest. And this is what we're all about, is trying to expose you to those ideas.
Sure.
I just want to hear what you guys think of this. There's a key word that came up about 6 minutes 23 seconds ago. It was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It was uncomfortable. And you got the pain pleasure principle. Now, I know the answer to this question because I deal with it all the time, and I've worked with it in workshops. But I'll get your perspectives of it. Is there a way? Because Tom, you brought that. You brought a really good point up. Is that the house, the car, the bank account, the lifestyle, the freedom's got to be bigger than the uncomfortable component that
right.
exists in the mind in that time and space. So
right.
is there a way to make what is uncomfortable? Because there's people watching this right now. Every day I'm on Facebook, and I see 97% of the people engaging on Facebook are really uncomfortable,
right.
wanting to be politically correct, always worried about this, worried about that, worried about saying something wrong. Is there a way to make uncomfortable feel comfortable?
Well, there's a way. I think there's a long answer to that question, but it really kind of boils down to this: is that you take some of the great achievers in anything, whether it's sport or business or politics or whatever it may be. These are people that embraced something about themselves and realized, in order for me to be the best I can be, I have to be willing to make change, right? And again, it's about taking on. I mean, if you work out, you feel sore, but you're growing because you're getting sore because you're breaking down the muscle tissue. So you're getting stronger while you're in pain and uncomfortable, right? That's the same way the brain works. It's the same way the success works. You got to be willing to go out here and fail by asking people to join your business and repurpose the word no. But as we talk about, the motivations of people, remember last week I talked about motivations, 2 words, motive and action. Motive is what you want, and if you're focused, if your brain has been wired through external circumstances, through millions and millions of negative thinking or self-limiting belief systems, that you can't do this, you can't go to Las Vegas and be a hypnotist, you can't start a golf company, you can't own a wine company, you can't own, if that's all you've ever believed and you've let that be circle thinking in your mind, then it seems almost unrealistic and almost unimaginable that you could ever have that. But when someone teaches you how your brain works and says, look, we can flip a switch and make that so real for you that it's almost as if that passion is pulling you. You see, people are trying to push themselves towards success. But if we take their imagery and we make it real for them and we make their brain work for them rather than against them, then what happens is rather than trying to push for the dream pulls them. They get up in the morning and they just feel like doing the work. They feel like making the calls. They feel like going to the meetings. They feel like doing the Google Hangouts because that mission has become real for them. And until it becomes real, which we can teach them through programming, it's just a dream. And so with what we can teach them is how to get your mind to work for you is to make those images powerful, make those sounds of where you want to be, what you want to be doing powerful. And when you do that, your brain has no choice. Your subconscious is going to move you in the direction of your dominant thought. And if you're thinking about failure and thinking about I can't, then you're never going to get there. So let's change that. And again, it comes down to knowing how it works and knowing what to do. That's really as simple as it gets, Val.
Gino?
I would agree with that. I think the thing that is hardest in our industry of training people, though, is to remember that the concept of entrepreneurialism has a fatal flaw in its concept. So in an employee situation, right, there's 2 ways to motivate somebody, with a carrot and a stick. So the carrot is you do good, you get a raise, you get an advancement, you make more money. The stick is you don't do a good job, we dock your pay or fire you, right? Works really good in religion too. If you do a really good job, you get to go to heaven. If you don't do a really good job, we have another place for you. So you see, we're
pain and pleasure,
and we're able to. The pain and pleasure sequence within the human mind can be a perfect driver because you can use pain to drive. When you look at you were talking about athletes, Tom, and you look at somebody like Kobe Bryant or LeBron James,
right?
Or in football, you look at Peyton Manning. These men and women in athletes in the Olympics this year, they push themselves through a tremendous amount of pain. The pain becomes the motivator as much as the pleasure sequence becomes the motivator.
Right.
And in the entrepreneurial model, That's a tricky component because for the average person, pain makes them run away.
Right.
Pain makes them go the other direction. So
Mhm.
people have to learn that the pain only happens because you haven't done it or experienced it frequently. The
Right.
minute you have experienced it and done it frequently, it's no longer painful. It doesn't matter if you're
Right.
working out in the gym and you get sore for a couple days, but then you go back and now you're not sore anymore. Or whether you're talking about using a Skype tool or a chat tool or a video chat, the first few times it's gonna be a little uncomfortable. It's gonna
Right.
be a little painful. So let's
Right.
just call a spade, and then
Mhm.
when you do it repetitively, then it becomes comfortable, just like any other activity you've
It's
ever
just
done.
like driving a car, riding a bike. You got to go through those 4 stages of learning. Unconscious, incompetent. You don't know what you don't know. Conscious, incompetent. You know, but you can't do it. Conscious, competent. You know what you're doing. You can do it consistently. And then unconscious, competent. You can do it while you're not thinking about anything. Driving a car goes that route. Walking goes that route. And you know, to echo what you just said, it really boils down to people are going to be uncomfortable. But if you set the expectations and tell them on the front end, hey, this is going to be a little different for you. It's going to be a little bit of a change. Are you willing to pay the price of success by going through the process? Because everyone who's ever been before you has been through this. And now that you know that, are you willing to go through it and expect it and embrace it and move through it versus let it stop you? That's your choice, right? Success is a matter of choice, not a matter of chance. So if we set those expectations, they now know what to expect, so it doesn't hit them by surprise. So they're not in a deer in headlights kind of mode. They're like, okay, I knew this was coming. Val said it was coming. Gino said it was coming. Tom said it was coming. I know how to handle it. I'm pushing through it, right? Same way we train military, same way we train athletes, right? So it's all good stuff. All good stuff.
Do you think so? For people, especially in the network marketing industry and people that are new to it, just in anything in general, people are their worst critics. They're their own worst critics. They're very self-judgmental. And so I think that, you're going to suck probably in the beginning. So, you know what? So let's be honest. Suck it up. You're going to suck. And, I think that there's a perfectionism. There's a real sort of disjointed perfectionism because people are judging themselves on things they have absolutely zero knowledge on. And yet there's a perception of, that people that have been around in the industry for a long time, well, you're so good, you've got a following and all that kind of stuff, but they keep forgetting that everyone who's arrived there they've sucked terribly at the beginning too. There's a real disjointed perception of that.
Yeah.
You're right, Tracy. You're right.
I try to explain in class all the time to people that the biggest difference between somebody who is successful in life at whatever they're doing as an entrepreneur, whether it's in network marketing or we can talk about an author or a musician or an athlete or whatever, anyone who has become a success at what they're doing became a success because they accepted failure as a part of the process of being successful.
Yeah.
So I tell 90% of my students, I tell them straight out that you're in class tonight, but 90% of you will not be back here next week. And the reason you won't come back next week is because you'd rather run away from change, run away from the fear, and run away from the failure, rather than recognizing that uncomfort is what's going to lead you to the top of the mountain you wanted to get to anyway.
Well, I think there's unreal expectations too, right? I mean, people, it's, like some people might learn really quickly, some people might be very slow at learning, so everybody has a different style of learning, and yet they see this, but they're here, and there's a big gap in the middle that's very unrealistic in their own thought process.
Sure.
You know, guys, it's interesting as we're sitting here talking about this. What comes to mind for me and when I do these change seminars is Michael Jordan didn't make his high school team. You go back and listen to any rock artist, any pop artist, you listen to their first material, it sucks. It's not produced right. They're off key. They're off timing. You watch any actor in their early movies, they're not fantastic. They make mistakes. Will Smith, a guy that persevered through a lot of challenge, and when he was young, came out with Parents Just Don't Understand, became a millionaire, lost everything. You watch him in the first episodes of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He said the dialogue. He mouthed the dialogue of his scene partner, and it was because he was memorizing both parts because he couldn't remember his own lines, so he remembered everybody's lines, so he'd know when he said his line. And if you go back and watch these episodes, they try to cut back and forth between him and Carlton and him and Uncle Phil and all that. But look at what happened with him. And he said it was the most uncomfortable thing in the world because I knew I was sitting there going. and no one else knew it, but I thought everybody in the world saw it. But nobody really knows I even did that. And 25 years later is the highest paid actor in the game right now. So you think about everything, whether it's sports or business or success, anybody that understands and embraces, hey, I'm going to make some mistakes, I'm going to fail forward, I'm going to learn from those mistakes, I'm going to use that to build my foundation to step higher and keep stepping on my mistakes until I finally don't make as many mistakes. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're in the wrong business. You've got to be willing to try. You've got to be willing to go out there and give it your best shot and know that it's going to happen. And when you know that, you have an expectation of how to handle it. And that's the secret, is just to persevere and push on through the adversity.
The author of Psycho-Cybernetics, Maltz.
Maxwell Maltz, yeah.
Maxwell Maltz. He talked about, he related the human mind to the same system that we might use for a missile targeting system. And that a missile targeting system doesn't work based on hitting its target. It works on minute adjustments, missing the target, making the adjustments quickly enough to get the target hit in the time frame.
That's right.
You know, that's a 55, what's almost 60-year-old concept at this point to understand that we learn through the failure mechanism, and that you have to get comfortable with it's going to be okay no matter what systems you use. You're going to make some errors, and you're using that error data to help find the right path. You're not going to find an auto path. You're gonna make some adjustments.
You didn't start walking out of the womb, and you didn't ride a bike out of the womb. You didn't drive a car out of the womb. You didn't know how to speak out of the womb. Right? You had to go through failure.
Right. But I do agree with Val that people tend to be learning intolerant. They tend to be they don't even want to spend as much money anymore on learning and on tools anymore to learn. And I think that's from technology, because from a marketing perspective, so here's what I think is kind of interesting. From a marketing perspective, marketing actually intentionally erodes the process of human development. It's intentional because the consumer doesn't want to develop. The consumer wants everything done for them and everything delivered at the touch of a button.
Oh yeah, instant gratification.
That's right. So marketing systems are actually designed to empower that, to make people not want to develop, to make people not want to learn and not want to figure things out on themselves, because that's not what they want to pay for. What they want to pay for is it already done for them, is automatic systems. We want to go to the wall of our house and push a button on the wall and see that dinner is cooked and handed on a plate, and we'll pay for that technology. But we don't,
it's like the Jetsons.
You know, we
like the Jets, and they just hit all these buttons and things to their instant food. But you know what? You're absolutely correct on that, because when you watch the TV commercials right now, I want to go back on something else we said a little bit earlier. But you know, when you watch the TV commercials now, you're seeing cars. People don't even want to drive cars anymore. You just get in the car, you sit there, you lock the doors, and you go like this, and you let the car drive you away. The car will stop. The car will avoid car accidents. It'll stop at a red light, a green light. It'll go. Everything, man. You know, it kind of reminds me of the movie 2001: Space Odyssey. David, remember Hal took over? The computer took over. You know, so it's almost like we're trying to wipe ourselves off the face of the earth. And
Terminator, baby.
We're trying to become amoebas. We're trying to become amoebas. You know, we just want to be a one-cell creature on a couch someplace that just, you know, automatically absorbs its food.
We all grew up in an era. Every one of us on this call grew up in an era where there were maybe 3 or 4 TV channels. And the remote control for my house was my dad threw a sock at me or a pillow and said, hey, change the channel. And then I'd go up and change the channel. And then he'd say, adjust the rabbit ears, right? And then I'd get the game, he'd stay right there, hold that right there. It's halftime. Just hold on till the halftime's over. Right there. That's good. And Dad, I got to go to the bathroom. You stay right there. This game's almost over. You got 2 more quarters. You can hang in there, buddy. You stay in right. You need to go to the bathroom? Get this boy a bucket. He can't move. The game's still on. I mean, it's incredible, but what I'm saying is people are becoming lazy. They're complacent. They want instant gratification. That's why the fast food industry has grown so rapidly. That's why this type of training it's not easy, but it is simple if you just follow a proven system, and people are just getting that way.
That's why companies, even with products, it's not about the products anymore. It doesn't matter if you have the cure for cancer. People don't care less about that anymore. They just want the system. Okay. What can I do so I can have that George Jetson lifestyle or whatever the guy's name was?
But see,
Do you have an autoresponder, rotator? Are you going to pay for leads? Who's paying for the solo ads? Are you guys going to be driving traffic? Who's going to be doing it? I'll join. I'll join. They never say, I'll launch a business with you. I'll engage with you. They always say, I'll join.
Take a
They
position.
just join a game. They just sit down and watch a game. Come join me tonight. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. But I just want to go back to something because Gino, we see this talking about being uncomfortable. And I love this with telemarketing rooms because in a telemarketing room, you walk into a telemarketing room first thing in the morning if you're on the floor and you're going to be working in front of automatic dialers, is you've got a little bit. It doesn't matter how good you are as a pro. Even professionals feel anxious. Tom, you probably feel anxious every now and then going on stage, or you probably got some things going on because the pressure is on, right? You got to perform.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the telemarketing rooms as if you sit down in front of an automatic dialer. You look around the room and you see, okay, I'm up against 25, 30 people, depending, in what area of the room you're in. And the key to getting that uncomfortable feeling gone, you can say whatever you want to say to this, but I know if I was doing a demo or I was training new people, they all thought like, oh my God, here's the guru, right? So I would get on, put the headset on, automatic dialer, and I'd come up and I'd show them how to do it. But I knew I was, my heart was still palpitating. They couldn't see it. I had to be calm and cool, right? Because you have to be cool. You're the guy, right? So, but it's the result. Once you get that first result out of the way, then it's like you go into this zone. It's like, okay, so the subconscious mind kicks in. Now you're not thinking of the stress. You're not thinking about all the eyes watching on you. Will he do it? Will he not do it? The microscope seems to go away, and then all of a sudden you just, bam, you hit the bell. Okay, another cell. Come on, 4 minutes. Get over here. Yeah, verify the cell. Something like that. Bam, got another one. Let's go. Get over here. Verify the cell. Bonnie, get over here. Whatever it is, right? So that's what goes on in the telemarketing room. You get in the zone, but to get that first result, that's the bitch. That's the pain. That's the uncomfortable feeling because you're on there, right, Gino? You're on there, and you know that people are watching because Gino's the god there, or Tracy's the god, or Tom's the god. Like, oh, this is the guy. And the eyes are on. They want to see how good you are because people are bragging about you, and you're bragging about yourself. You're telling people you walk on water. So now it's time to do it, and you're sitting there. And once you get that first sale out of the way, then you get the rhythm, then you get into a zone, then you get into this vortex that it's an unbelievable feeling, the adrenaline, and you're looking around, and then you get into a competition with 3 or 4 guys on the floor, and you're looking at the scores. All right, you do 80 to 90 calls in a day, maybe 110 calls in an 8-hour period, depending. Different variables, how long you're on the phone for, but you're always looking at that whiteboard to see who's got the next sale. You're always listening to the voices around. All right, who got that? Bam! All right, I got one. Bam! I got one. You're always listening like that. Tom, did you have that experience when you do the hypnotic shows? Are you kind of going in there knowing that you got this brand new audience and you got to bring that? You got to bring it, man.
It's different than there's a number of things you just touched on I want to address too. Number one is every show for me is different because it's different people. It's not stooges like we talked about. I mean, it's financially impossible for us to have 18 to 20 people jump on a stage every night in Las Vegas with a whole new audience every night. It'd be incredible. But yeah, there used to be a reluctance. Can I get someone under? Or can I get my group under? But over time, right? Time, repetition, reinforcement. I got to the confidence level to where no matter where I'm at, whether I'm at a party with 25 people or I'm at a party with 2,500 people, doesn't matter. I now know that I know, right? Once you know that you know. And the thing about it is too, we're talking about having the anxiety. Great actors, great athletes are all nervous before they perform. They'll tell you that they're nervous. If you're doing your job right, you're activating. Here's what's going on. When you're nervous about something, you have a stress syndrome that's happening. It's called the fight or flight syndrome. So that nauseousness, that palm sweaty, that mouth dry feeling, that's the fight or flight syndrome kicking in. And that was originally designed in our DNA because we had to run from tigers, right? You either fought the tiger or you ran like hell, right? Like, I ain't gonna let this tiger get me, man. This son of a bitch is real big. But you had to run, right? Or you had to get a club like, okay, come on, Mr. Tiger, I'm gonna take your ass out. But either way, it doesn't matter because what happens is when you have the fight or flight syndrome, a lot of things happen. Epinephrine, acetylcholine, dopamine, all these things happen in your body and they flood your system, and you can either take that and fight or you can run away from it. So if you learn that you're going to have stress is part of being successful, stress is part of anxiety, but if you learn, okay, this is what's going to happen to me, when you start having that success, what happens, it's almost a magical pill, like you just said, is it reverts back to now you get a flood from the amygdala, the part of the brain that is stimulated by chocolate and sex and winning money or having a positive experience. When that happens, it changes from fear to like, oh, hell yeah, I got this. Yeah, I can take the tiger. Yeah, sit your ass down. I got you. Right? But when you have that moment, that aha moment, then another series of chemical reactions happen. And now you've got this whole flood of feelings of endorphins that make you feel good. And when you feel good, you want to feel good again. So you go back and repeat the behavior. So when you repeat that behavior, you start to drive a new action. That starts to create new outcomes. New results happen. Then you start to be successful. But if you, again, this is creating an understanding of what it is, how to embrace it, and then how to use it, right? And that's what we're teaching people. How do you use this fear? How does this anxiety? That's how you use it. When you know what it is and what it does, now how it works, you can take it and put it to your advantage.
That's so cool. Gino, were you going to say something?
No, I was going to agree with you that that's the fun of a call center, and that the fun of success is that when you can make that shift where you feed on that anxiety. That's the part that people have to learn, is that you use the anxiety, just like Tom was saying. There isn't anybody out there that's a pro that doesn't have butterflies in the stomach before they get up on stage or before they go to a big football game. But those butterflies, but the difference is the butterflies aren't a negative anymore. They're positive. In fact, look at how many athletes and how many professionals and successful people will tell you, I'm retiring because I don't get off doing it anymore. There's no buzz anymore. When those butterflies leave, when that anxiety before you get up on stage, when that's not there anymore, now it's boring and monotonous. You'd rather
the thrill is gone.
Maybe.
And that's really where the buzz is. When I get into a call center and I'm showing people I can close or get deals or whatever, the buzz is that initial getting on the phone, maybe getting that first deal or two, but after a couple deals, there's no buzz anymore to that. It's all that initiative part that's really fun and exciting that more people have to get comfortable with,
Yeah. It's like the Wolf of Wall Street.
Right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Good.
Well, it must be like that for the UFC, though. Like when you take a look at, when you take a look at the publicity around the UFC, and that you see the, the marketing behind that, and they bring two lions out of the cage and they start clawing each other before, a week before the main event. They'll do that 2-3 times in a week to stimulate, that bloodthirsty audience, so to speak. But you know what? It's got to be a little bit, nerve-wracking when you actually physically get in the ring. You're running down there, and you know that somebody wants to kill you in the ring. You just can't sit there and be calm thinking about it. So when you see a guy like Diaz and a guy like McGregor sitting in the ring, they're obviously going through, even though they're really good at masking it, they got to be, wondering whether they're going to go to the bathroom right there and now, right on the spot, because the world's watching you, man. You got pay-per-view watching you. You've got all the countries around the world watching you. It's not 5,000 people. We're talking about potentially, 500 million people around the world. You're sitting there in the ring, getting ready to get your head taken off, and some guy just wants to rip you apart, man. Like he knows it's a do-or-die situation almost. You're not there to kill somebody, but you're there to bust them up pretty good. But imagine the anxiety I don't know. I can't even comprehend what type of blockers they would have just to stay mellow unless they're taking something before they go in there. Tom, what do you think that is, man? You're in Vegas. You're there with all those weird people. What's going on there, man?
Well, let me step back in time a few years. As you guys know, I was a pararescue. I was a member of Special Forces. So, when you're in Afghanistan or you're in Iran or you're in a hostile territory, right? I mean, you talk about being nervous on stage because a bunch of drunks aren't going to get on stage and they're going to have a good show. That's like penny ante candy bullshit, right? You want to know how to seriously be worried about life, right? When you're getting fucking shot at. When you're getting shot at and they're throwing grenades at you and you're like, yeah, you're running for your life. There's a whole big difference, right? So when you've had that experience, when you've got when you've got something to compare it to, like, look, I used to rappel out of a helicopter 1,500 feet down, bullets flying by my head. I see wounded on the ground I got to get to. My mission is only one thing. Our whole mission is, and so others can live. And our job is to get to that soldier and get him on that chopper so we can get him to the medevac. So when I've got young airmen and we're teaching them how to fold their underwear in 6-inch squares and how to keep their toothbrush and their shave stuff really clean, they're asking, Kaz, why we got to do this? Here's why. Because we're going to trust you and the lives of others with you. You're going to be cutting the wires on a $40 million aircraft that's got a pilot we spent $10 million to train who's got a wife and kids. It's your job to cut the right wire. Pay attention to detail. But they're going to be scared. They're going to be afraid. Same thing in combat. So you have to create that expectation, explain that expectation, and then give them simulated situations like you guys do in the call room. You always teach people through actual role-playing what they can expect and how to respond, so that when it actually happens to them, it's not the first time. There's not a discomfort associated with it. It's not brand new. So we have to learn to embrace anxiety and fear and turn it into power and use that power for ourselves. And that's what this game is all about, is learning how to take things that are negative and turn them into positives. And that's what I would say, Val, is on stage. Yeah, I've had anxiety. Every performer does. But where it really gets kind of shaky and sketchy is when you're getting shot at or you're worried for your life. And so on stage is nothing compared to that. And I've done that, and I've watched others do that. And the ones that are successful, the ones that make it through, are the ones that take it and use it to their advantage.
Great comparison, because people, I just want to say this, is that the reality of what people are afraid of is so out of context with what really is fearful.
Right.
It's really about, they're fearful about how they look because the, self-preservation and all that kind of stuff, if you're talking about video and you're just talking about talking to somebody on the phone.
Right.
But when you want to put it in comparison like you just did with regards to what real fear is, like it's like worlds apart. There's not even any correlation to it.
No reference point. Yeah.
No reference point at all to it.
So let me just go back to that. You brought up a really good point, and it was really interesting to watch your vocabulary change and your mindset change and everything change. How that basically brought up all kinds of emotions for you when you were explaining that. So it's just really interesting.
Sorry about that.
No, that was great. No, it was great.
No, it's real for me. I was there, man. I saw it. It's real. It's like I can still see it in my head. It's like right there. I see guys running, going, "Oh my God, I'm getting shot at. What do I do? Get your head down."
Yeah. So let's think about that in marketing, though. That's a really good scenario for marketing, because it's the same thing in marketing, right? Like if you're not trained in marketing, okay. So let's go back to that. So you guys are rappelling down on these $40 million machines, and you've got to get down there. Somebody's wounded. Somebody's lost a leg. Somebody's lost, half of their abdomen, whatever it is. You're down there dealing with, life-death situations. You're there dealing with trauma. You're dealing with things that a human being should never see or be exposed to, I think. It might be normal in a different part of the world, but in North America, that's not normal scenery. So the whole point being is, if these people, if we're sending these people down, Tom, never mind folding underwear and training, all that, if we send unqualified, dysfunctional people in to do the job that you were just describing, coming down, and they had no training whatsoever, honestly, what's going to happen to these people? What's going to happen when we send in a whole bunch of dysfunctional people to do whatever the hell they're doing?
Well, I'll tell you, this same thing's going to happen to an untrained sales rep. Same thing's going to happen to an untrained network marketer. Is they're going to freeze up. They're going to be confused. They're going to be overwhelmed by the anxiety. They're going to be overwhelmed by the physicality of the moment. They're going to be so locked into a fear, into a state of shock, that they're going to freeze, and that's when you die, right? And isn't that the same thing that happens in sales? Is when someone asks a question and you haven't prepared from the objections, right? You don't know what to say, so you freeze up, and then you tense up, and then you start getting I don't know, right? So it's the same thing. So in life, in a combat situation or in an athletic situation, it comes down to, if I run towards this guy, he's going to take me out, or he's going to shoot me. All right, but in sales, it's if I don't get myself together and capture and be living in the present moment. I can't worry about what's going to happen if I don't make the sale or if I do make the sale. I have to live in this moment with this prospect or this particular situation. And if I can do that and stay right here and come back with my emotions and master my emotions, which is something else we need to teach. If I can master my emotions and harness them and know how to do that on purpose, not by just guessing, but I know how to do it, now I can take that and I can assess the situation and I can respond and not react. And that's applicable in business, that's applicable in sports, and that's applicable in combat. That's what the guys have to do in the ring with the MMA. I work with Randy Couture and some of the other guys here in Vegas back in the very beginning of MMA and UFC, is they were going in there and they're badasses, right? But every single one of them will tell you they all got a nervous stomach. They all are literally about to take a dump. Watch the last Rocky movie, Creed. What's he say right before he's going in the ring? I got to take a dump. Hey, can I have a few minutes? Hey, can I give the guy a minute here? I can't wipe my butt. Okay, well, we'll take the gloves off, right? So it happens. And if you know it's going to happen and you prepare it and you learn to master your emotions, you can harness that and use that for positive gain in your business or in your life. So that's the short answer to that, Val, is just based on practical experience.
So the bottom line, there's going to be casualties, right?
Absolutely. There's going to be casualties. And that means success or failure. That's all.
Yeah. So we're going to have a lot of victims. There's going to be a lot of casualties because these people chose not to take the appropriate form of action, be trained, go through boot camp, learn the skill set, develop the skill set, take it, train with it, work with it, practice it, and then all of a sudden everything's a scam now, right? All because somebody neglected to do their part. Everything else out there externally is a scam. You know what I'm saying? Well, they're projecting. They're projecting their dysfunction, their failure.
Yes.
This person's a bad person. This person's bad, or this person's a scammer, or that's a scam, and this is a scam. All because that person was too damn, well, I won't use that word, too damn not so smart to basically take the proper, protocols and methodologies and put them in place, right?
Well, it really just boils down to percentages. How many percentages of Major League Baseball players or hockey players or basketball players or football players or rugby players or athletes are paid millions of dollars? A very small percentage. And some of them had talent, but some had to work really hard to develop that talent. Isn't that the same in network marketing or online business? You've got to be willing to put the work in. You've got to be willing to apply and follow the clues that other people have left that are successful. And the people that do that, the people that say, okay, if I want to be a professional golfer, I have to do what golfers do to become professional golfers. If I want to be a successful network marketer, I got to do what Val Smith did to generate, hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. There's no reason to recreate the wheel. But they make it so difficult because the external influences are changing the way they look at things. And if you just break it down and say, listen, if I want to be successful, I got to be willing to work harder, run longer, and be faster and stronger and better than my competition. And only the people who are willing to do that are the ones that make it. That's why the percentages are so small at the top of the pyramid, right? We use the word pyramid because that's the way it really is. If you want to get to the top of the mountain, you got to train to get to the top of the mountain. You got to be willing to lift and run and train. If you don't want that, then don't get started because you're only fooling yourself.
Yep. Yeah, and if you want to be at the top of the pyramid in corporate America or in religion or in the educational system, you still got to do the same thing. And another thing, you brought up a really cool word, talent. Just because a person has talent doesn't mean they're going to be successful. There is a lot of talented people out there. I saw it from a sports background, whether it be hockey or baseball or football or rugby. I've seen a lot of talent go to waste. We've seen a lot of talent go to waste. We've even seen it in the movies. John Belushi and a lot of other greats out there, gifted, talented actors, and they found a way to sabotage those careers, suicides, drug addiction, drug overdoses.
Yep.
Whatever it is. Michael Jackson too, right? Like Michael Jackson, he died too young. Elvis died too young. And, a lot of them took themselves out a little bit early. Gino, were you going to say something? Did you want to comment on any of that cool stuff?
No, I'm riding along. That was good.
Well, you know what? That's a really interesting concept, too, because it's funny because there are a lot of very talented people out there in this industry as well. And yet, sometimes the smarter they are, the harder it is to reprogram them. Or, Tom, we talked about this last week about resetting and wiping the slate clean so that they can learn the proper skill sets, or at least retrain their brain to do it correctly. But sometimes if they're too smart and too talented, then it's even harder to get to that point. Sometimes it's easier taking, and Gino, you might, because you're training people all the time. Sometimes it's easier just to take somebody with no knowledge, no preconceptions of anything, and starting them out at scratch and train them when they have no knowledge, as opposed to when they're talented and have knowledge. It's like they're fighting themselves all the time, right?
I agree. I try to teach a lot of people that I know most people won't agree with this statement, but I don't believe that anybody has a talent. I believe you learn a talent. So you could tell me so and so is really a talented athlete. Well, they weren't as a talented athlete. It requires physical abilities. They didn't have those physical abilities until they learned them. You're not a born athlete. You're not a born salesman. You're not a born successful network marketer. Those aren't talents. Those are skills.
Right.
I think
you can have a predisposition that allows the physicality of your body and your habitus and your training to work for you, but you still got to put the work in. And that's what pisses me off about the steroid stuff. I played professional baseball coming right out of school. I hit 90-mile-an-hour fastballs. If you're using steroids, you might recover faster and be stronger, but you still got to be able to see the ball out of the pitcher's hand or see the ball off the bat, track it down, catch it, throw it, run. It still takes physical skill. So you're dead on. Is they may have a predisposition to athletic ability, but they didn't just wake up one morning and make it to the NBA or the NFL. They had to work at it. And if you go back to Michael Jordan and LeBron James and Alex Rodriguez and some of the better athletes out there, they all had. Sammy Sosa, very good friend of mine, worked with Sammy. He came up, he couldn't hit a curveball if you sat it on a shelf. He couldn't. They had to work at it.
That's why I don't. The word talent, I think, is often used as to excuse people around everybody. Well, he's really good because he's so talented at that, or she's so talented at that. Well, you didn't see the 15 years that it took her to get
overnight success.
Talent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just. Yeah. I think it's the same. I don't like that word any more than I like the word potential. Yeah. I think that word drives me crazy too. I can't. People that tell you that you have tons of potential, tell me that doesn't frustrate you. You don't want to be told you have potential. You want to be told that you're maximizing your potential. But I don't want to be told I have potential, and I don't like to tell other people they have potential. I think that's not an empowering term,
Yeah, sure.
Good point.
Cool. Good stuff, guys.
Well, I like it. We could probably go on here longer and longer. These chats, man, these are really psychologically stimulating. I call this intellectual intercourse. I like this. It's really good.
Therapy session.
It's great, man. It's great. You're on here, and there's so much to travel with, but we're reaching the top of the hour. As a matter of fact, we've got a little bit past the hour here, and I know Tom wanted to visit, and I think we kind of did visit a little bit, Tom. We didn't get into the real details, the nitty gritty of it. You wanted to talk about, retraining the mind and things like that. We touched upon it a little bit here. We can do that. We can do that again on another call. This is absolutely incredible. These are the calls that everybody should be on, and thank God we're recording this. There was a lot of great stuff that came out of Gino tonight. A lot of great stuff that came out of you, Tom, and a lot of okay stuff that came out of me and Tracy as usual. Great stuff, and I love these calls. This is like rehab. We should have everybody in here. This should be a 12-step program. Every Sunday night, everybody should be in here, getting whatever off their chest. What's that, Gino?
I said thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah, it was great to have you, man. It was absolutely great to have you. So, Trace, Tom, always great to have you here. Who knows what Tom's going to be doing on these calls?
I just want to say, one more time, Nicolas Cage came by earlier and he said, thanks again for the cookies. They were great.
Unbelievable.
Oh, my goodness. Wow, we could stay on here all night. This has just been so much fun, so much great information, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and this, of course, is recorded, and it'll be up as soon as we stop the broadcast. So thanks, Gino, for joining us. It was just a delight, and Tom, always, we never know what we're going to get from you, but it's always entertaining and always educational. And Val, it's always just fun hanging out with you anyway. So, but thanks everyone, and we'll see you again next week on Sunday Night Sessions. Bye for now.
Thanks, guys. You're awesome. Thanks.